welcome to Sensible Secondhand Classics, the show where we look at cars that are over 15 years old that you could buy for between £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 1968 Austin 1800 Mark II, otherwise known as a Landcrab, and it's pretty interesting. So the Landcrab was launched in 1964. It was yet another design by Callaghan, who would be responsible for the Morris Minor, the Mini, and also the 1100. This has a 1.8 B series engine, developing around 86 horsepower. The early ones had 81 horsepower. You could also get the S version of this, which in 1968 developed 95 horsepower, and 1970 developed 97 horsepower. From 1972 there was a 6-cylinder version of this car, which used the E series engine, 2.2 litres of capacity, developing 110 horsepower. The car was available with Austin, Morris and Wolseley badges. Wolseley was known as the 1885, and the Wolseley 6 for the 6-cylinder version. This is a really early Mark II, which came out in August 68. In fact, this car was registered in August 1968. So it's quite an amazing example. The impression that comes to mind when driving this car straight away is actually of an episode of The Professionals called Blind Run that was filmed in 1978. In that episode, Bodie and Doyle are sent on a mission they don't really know much about, and the car that they are supplied with is a 1967 Morris 1800 in this colour. So it's a Mark I, but it looks very similar to this, but I do feel like I'm Lewis Collins on a secret mission driving this. Obviously the car doesn't come to the best end. Obviously, by that stage a Landcrab wasn't the most expensive thing in the second-hand market, but now these cars are worth, yeah, between the sort of £4,000 or £5,000 for the starter one with you know, an MOT and stuff, and then really nice ones a lot more. The Wolsleys do command more money. This car's got hydroelastic suspension that both the 8016s and some of the Minis had at the time, and it's a little bit further than I imagined. I think actually that's what they're supposed to be like. Unlike the 8016 that I've actually driven earlier on today, this car does have servo assisted brakes and an all-synchromesh gearbox, which makes it a little bit easier to drive. Mechanically, this car is actually quite good. It's had new brakes and things and a new clutch, so it feels really good. The brakes are actually very powerful in this, especially for a car that dates from 1968. For viewers, my parking's not really improving. I'm not getting on very well with these wing mirrors. I can't really see where the curb is, but we'll have to continue as we are. So this Mark II 1800 actually has the wrong grille on it. This is a Morris grille, although that badge up there is correct for an Austin. Alan, who owns this car, does actually have the correct grille for this, which he intends to fit at some point. This car's actually in quite an unrestored state. It's pretty solid. There are little bits of rust here and there. Most of them have been treated. But yes, it's just remarkable to see a car like this, which is what it would have been maybe in the late 70s, early 80s when you saw these around. This is what they would have looked like. These days you go to a show and they're all sort of pretty and very, very all sort of together. This one is not. It's a very sort of original and very honest example. No reversing lights, not even on a Mark II. Someone's I had a go with that overrider. It's sort of its purpose there at some point, haven't they? I've got a fog light though. That's pretty good. I don't know if Alan at some point will fit a reversing light to this. Personally, that's what I do if it were me, because people just are used to seeing reversing lights on cars. They weren't compulsory at all when this car was made. What surprises me most of all about this car is the amount of space inside. I don't believe there's doors unlocked. Yes, it is. It's so easy to get in and out. There's like absolute limousine levels of space. Oh, let's wait for this van to go past. Alright, there we go, viewers, that van's gone. It's very easy to get in and out as well. You can see why actually the 3 litre also use these doors. Oh my gosh, look at this. So much space. Just unbelievable amounts of space. Big door bends. Ashtrays, of course. Alec used to go just like to smoke, so we have ashtrays. There we go. Centre armrest. We can pull that down. This is vinyl, by the way. I don't know if on the Wolseley versions this car had leather, but that's very nice. Gosh, you go for a long time in here. Look at the amount of knee room in here. It's not actually, by modern standards, that big a car, but it just feels enormous in here. Wow. And these interior door handles, viewers, I'm sure you've seen these everywhere. Marinas and Allegros and various Leyland DAF and LDV vans and all kinds of things. This is a cheaper interior than the Mark 1s would have had. And actually, there are 2 interiors in the Mark 1. One had the bench seats and one had separate seats from 67. But this is an August 68. It's the launch month for the Mark 2s. This is how they would have come originally. These seatbelts, viewers, I'm not a massive fan of them. They are right pain to sort of fiddle with. But these are original belts of the car, which is, I suppose, nice to see. Right, see if we can get the boot open. There we go, viewers. Kinds of stuff in here. It's like a Princess, which was the car that sort of came after us after the 1822 series, which was just like the Princess, really. It was only made for 6 months. Then the Princess came after that. But all this kind of stuff we can have in here. See, there are a few more bits to do on this, but mechanically it's actually pretty good. Just don't see these anymore. You just see them in all these kind of 70s shows, just kind of being street furniture, but these days just not around at all. Right, let's take a look actually onto the bonnet whilst we're here. Similar really to it's like an ADO 16, just a much bigger version of it really. Same hydroelastic type suspension in this. Brake servo, it's a remote one, but I'm grateful it's there because this is a much heavier car than an ADO 16. B series rather than the A series, of course, 1.8 litres, generating this car about 86 horsepower. I think that's a bit different output from the MGB of the time as well. They had a little bit more. There's a single carb on this. That air filter housing, by the way, right at the back of there is a right pain to get on and off. We had to put that on earlier on, and oh my gosh, it is a pain. It's not easy. So yeah, a bit of oil leaks in here, but you know, I think with the B series, that's just the way that it tends to go. Apologies for the children in the background. But yeah, actually mechanically this car's pretty good. It's just cosmetically not the best, and this is a way that I think it's going to stay actually. It's going to stay in this kind of unrestored sort of looking condition, but obviously mechanically it's going to be good because it looks actually better on camera. These things always do, but just the look of this I think it's just wonderful. It's very charming. Right viewers, the good old doors used on the Maxi and the 3 litre and the Panther, what's it called? That Panther model based on the Beati Royale looking like it. They also had these doors. So much space to pull this door. There we go. Just do it with one hand. Right, strip speedo like an ADO 16, although we've got conkers on the roof. The one thing that's sort of better is that these switches are far easier to understand. I can understand, for example, that is the That is for the wipers. Umbrella handbrake takes a bit of getting used to, but some modern trucks actually still have those, so it's not the end of the world. Here is the indicator stalk on the right hand side. I don't know what that is down there, because the ignition switch is actually up here. So I haven't got a clue what that is. Choke is just down there. We haven't got the choke on at the moment. RAM, that's interesting, isn't it? Sorry about the lighting, by the way, viewers. The sun is not in the right position really to film this without that. So yeah, we can put that on, hot and cold. Quite simple controls. I think this radio might actually be original to the car. I don't know. It's a Radiomobile unit. I'm not actually entirely sure. We can take a look at that. There we go. I don't need to demonstrate the glove box in here, viewers, because you can see there isn't one, and it's just there. Very sort of Radio 16 like all these the early ones. And again, I think on the very early cars, this was just open all the way along. There's nothing, anything in the middle. Again, big door pockets there. Same old interior door handles we've discussed. Air vents either side as well. But very, very sparse. Just the way that Isagonis liked his cars. Very typical of the period, this headliner. Look at this carpet again. Very, very, very 60s, this sort of thing. I had no idea what it's doing, as I said. I don't know why that's there. Yeah, that's sort of it, really. There's not really much else to say in here. I don't know what some of those on the end do. That presumably is some hazards or something. I don't know. Answers in the comments section below. And it's time for me to take another drive. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. Gearbox takes a bit of time to get used to. You have to be a bit deliberate with shifts. I think this is also transmission in sump, like so many of Isagonis' designs were. And so it's not quite, you know, the smoothest thing to drive. But I am very much enjoying this. You can see a Mark III one of these in an episode of New Avengers called Angels of Death, which is driven by Ted Alexander. That was filmed in 1977. For the facelift in 1972, when the E-Series engine was introduced as an option, the cars became very, very similar to the Austin and Morris versions. Much more kind of generic 70s look as opposed to this rather kind of austere but very charming 60s look. Engine feels actually quite powerful. I'm sort of surprised that it feels as good as it does. Once you get used to this gearbox, it's actually okay. I'm going a bit too fast. Well, I'm gonna have to slow down. It's pretty easy to drive. There's no power steering or anything in this, but it's still pretty good. And I am enjoying myself very much indeed. So viewers, the good old Landcrab, is this a car that you should consider with your hard-earned budget of between £1,000 and £5,000 as a sensible second-hand classic? Well, I find this car quite interesting, really. It's sort of more interesting to talk about in a way than it is to drive. To drive it just feels like a very big ADO 16, and actually those probably drive better than this. In this, you're just fighting the steering constantly, like twirling your arms around like no one's business, because it's quite heavy and it's an awful lot of turns lock to lock. I'll just take a look in here and see if there was a new steering rack put in. Yeah, there was a new steering rack put in 67 with the Mark 1 interior changes. This has high geared steering in the early cars. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but you know, I really would like some power steering in this. That would make things a lot easier. But nevertheless, I've quite enjoyed it. The space in this car is just amazing, and all these technical innovations in a car like this, which is just sort of competing against this Corsair, really. Maybe it's just a much more spacious and technically advanced car than something like that. But it's very much, you either like one of these or you don't, and I do quite like it. It's an amazing example, actually, just to see what these would have been like back in the day when they were sort of 10 years old. This is sort of right in the correct state to see what people would have seen on the streets back in the 70s and early 80s. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching this episode of Sensible Secondhand Classics. Please don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below, and we'll see you again soon for more reasonably priced nostalgic motorcycles.
Every blue day, every day with blue skies, and on every occasion that you do or don't smile. Every time you dance for joy.